In this lesson, we can see how we can create this bouncing jelly ball. Now, we're using a principle called squash and stretch in this example. Now, while squashing and stretching an object, we should keep in mind that the volume of the object should be maintained as the same, whether it is being squashed or stretched. As you can see that when it is being stretched, it becomes taller, but at the same time it becomes thinner. At the same time, when it is being squashed, it becomes shorter, but at the same time it becomes fatter. So this is the actual shape of the object, which is the same volume as it is being squashed or being stretched. Before we start with the animation, I just want to give you a little info about keyframes in timeline and range slider. So the bottom here in Maya, you will see the timeline. So this is the place where we'll create the animations, the keyframes. And then below that we have something called a range slider. Now, range slider basically shows what should be the range of frames that should be visible in the timeline. Here you can see it starts with 1 and it ends with 24. So that's what you will see here. So this is frame number 1 and frame number 24. If I want to show more number of frames in my timeline, all I have to do is just simply click and drag in this range slider. So that shows more number of keyframes. Now, if 48 keyframes are not enough, we can also increase the frames here. Say, for example, I can press 150. So now I will end up with 150 frames. Now, even though we have 150 frames, if you just want to focus on, let's say, 10 frames from frame number 100 to 110, all you have to do is just enter 100 here and enter 110 here. So now we will end up with just frame number 100 to 110 in our timeline. You can also manually pull this to show as many keyframes as you like. So here we have a sphere which is fully rigged, and you have a small controller to control the sphere. It's also called control curve. So if I select the control curve, I've got the attributes translate XYZ and rotate XYZ. Along with that, I have a new attribute called squash. By default, it's 0. Let's see what happens if I increase this value. Now, all I have to do is just select the label and use the middle mouse button and click and drag in the timeline forward. If I go to value of 10, it squashes, and this basically shows an impact to the ground. So what happens when this jelly ball falls down to the ground? It squashes down flat. Let's see what happens when I move when I change the value in negative direction. So I go back to 0 and then I push it further to -10. It shows as if the jelly ball is falling down. Due to the gravity, it's creating the shape of a water drop. So these are the things that we will be using to create this animation. Basically, this is being achieved with the help of blend shape, which we will be learning in the future lessons. For now, you can take this file and start working. Okay, so let's begin the animation. My animation is going to be less than 50 frames, so I'll just keep the timeline to be from 1 to frame number 50. I'll turn on the auto key because we don't want to set key every single time we make a change. Because auto key is turned on, every time I make a change, automatically it will create the keyframe for that particular timeline. So because of this, you have to be also careful which frame you're working on, because when you make a change, it will automatically create a keyframe for that particular frame. So to begin with, I just want to push this ball up. So I'll choose the move tool, pull it up. I'll give a value of something like 8. So I'm going to create keyframes for both translate Y and squash. So I'll select both of them by pressing Control key, right click, and choose key selected. Next time I make a change for any of these attributes, it does automatically create a keyframe because of the auto key. So I'll go to frame number 15. I'll push it down to exact 0. So that's the place where it is actually creating the contact with the ground. And since it is falling down, I just want to change the squash value to -10. So it's actually stretching out to reach the bottom. So we can just play back. So there it is, a round ball, squash is 0. And at frame number 15 it is -10, which is touching the ground. And immediately when it touches the ground, it is supposed to become squashed out. So in the immediate next keyframe, that is frame number 16, I will make this +10. So let's see how that looks. Okay. So it is touching and it's squashing. Fine. So now let's go ahead and move to frame number, let's say 22 approximately. And I'll pull it up. Translate Y. Pull it up something like 2.5. 2.5. Okay, so when it goes to the midway, that is at frame number 22, it should again become 0. That is a perfect circle. So squashed and then pushed up. Okay, I think I might have to push these two keyframes a little bit to the left for the squash. We can do that final changes later. Okay, and then again after, let's say 1 2 3 4 5 approximately here, frame number 28 or 27, I'll bring this back to 0. So it's again touching the ground. So when it is coming down again, it will stretch a little bit. So this time no need to go all the way to -10. Instead we can keep it something like -4.5 or -5. Okay, and again it is touching the ground, so the next keyframe it has to go squash. So something like 5, +5. And then again at frame number 20, 30 or 31, I have to push it up a little bit. It's not too much, maybe just 1.5. Again it'll become 0. It's a perfect circle. And again it's falling down. Let's say frame number 34. These keyframes, I'm just making it arbitrary. There's no exact value that you have to give. You can look at it. What I'm basically, if you look, you can see that initially I've given lots of time, lots of frames, and then a little less, and then a little less, and then a little less, because the speed is going down and the distance is coming down. So initially you will have lots of frames, then you have less and less and less. Finally you will end up with just 2 close keyframes. So at 34, I'll bring it down. So you can see just come up, down, up again and down. So 34, I will have to stretch it a little bit, maybe -2.5. And the next immediate next keyframe, it should become +2.5, maybe more since squashing. 4.5, and then I think it stays on the ground, but again I'll just give a small movement upwards, so that is -1. Then the next one is like +1, or maybe 3, 4, 3. And then the next keyframe I can just bring it back to 0. Now if you're having little complications in understanding this, we can also do the same thing with the graph editor. So let me just play this back, see what I got. Okay, that looks somewhat good, but you will notice that the contact is not very clear. When it is touching the ground, it is not making the impact of touching the ground, which we can fix by using the graph editor. So let's look at the graph editor after this. Let's go to Window, Animation Editors, and Graph Editor. Now basically graph editor gives us a graphical view of our keyframes, where horizontally we have all the frames that we have, that is from frame number 1 to 50. So you can see that frame number 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. We've got keyframes till here, that is 38. So we've got keyframes till 38. And vertically we will have the value. So value is, let's say for translate y, this is the graph for translate y. You can see that we started with the value of 8, so that is between 10 and 5, and then it went to 0, then again it went up, then it went down, then it went up and down, and so on and so forth. Now this is the basic default graph that Maya creates, a smooth curve between all the keyframes, which we can modify, and we will have to modify for our case, because we want to create the impact on the ground, not a smooth movement back. And also we can use this, we can navigate with the graph editor with the help of Alt key. So if I press Alt key and right mouse button, I can zoom in and zoom out. And simply you can press F key to frame the entire graph that we have selected. If you want to just look at squash, you can select squash and press F, so that will frame it. So let's go ahead and look at translate y. This is what we have to modify right now in order to get this falling effect. I just want to deselect it for now. I just want to show a quick play blast of how this looks. So I'll just close that for now. Let's see how we can fix that. I'll select it, go to translate y, and this is the place where it is actually hitting the ground. You can see if I move back and forth, so that is frame number 15, so that's where it is actually creating the contact. Okay, so let's select this, and you can see that it has a smooth movement. We just have to make it sharp. So if I choose this controller, I can make it sharp in one side, but the other side is getting affected. So let's go ahead and break this handles first. Right click on the keyframe and choose break tangents. Click on that. Now these two things will work independent. So I can move this up like so. I can move this up like so. So now instead of having a smooth curve like this, we have a sharp curve. Now let's go ahead and minimize this, deselect, and make a play blast. There you go. So you can see that when it is touching the ground, it is actually creating the contact, feel that it is hitting somewhere. Okay, we'll have to do the same thing for the second keyframe. That's all. Let's go ahead, select the control curve, translate, and this is the second area. Select that, right click, break tangents, select it, push it up, select this, push it up. Let's do the same thing for the last one. We don't have to break this tangents because the other side doesn't have any keyframe, but still if you want to do so, you can. Just leave it like that. Let's minimize, let's deselect, and hit play blast. There you go. So that's the final animation.